Hey everybody, it is time for this week's Market Snapshot. What's happened in the Northern Virginia real estate market in the last 7 days in under 5 minutes. May go a little bit over because we do have the contract trends. Here we go. Okay, so here we are at the end of October, and we're going to look at what is going on with the market. We're going to look at what's happened in the last 7 days, and we're starting to see some consistency that's happening. There was a downtick in interest rates this week in anticipation of the Feds cutting the interest rates coming up next week. And quite often what we'll see is when we expect the interest rates to be cut, we'll see mortgage rates drop prior to the Fed meeting. And we did see that happen. We saw about maybe as high as a half a point drop. I saw it go from like 6.4 down to 6.18. So it's, I guess, more of a quarter point. But anyway, we did see a drop in interest rates this week. So let's dive into the numbers and see if that affected buyer activity and just kind of where the market is sitting in general. All right, so this is our graph of the last 7 days. And as always, the black line is going to be our buyer activity. These are the properties that went under contract in the last 7 days. And then the teal line here is our inventory. And that's the number of properties that came onto the market, either new properties that came onto the market or properties that came back to active status. So the reason we look at these numbers is because the buyer activity indicates the demand and the inventory indicates the supply. So we're always looking at that supply versus demand ratio because that indicates where the strength, where the leverage is, and who's got the power in the marketing and the negotiation. So you can see that the buyer activity had a slight decrease in the last 7 days, this black line right here. And then inventory also decreased in the last 7 days. Now, what's interesting about inventory is if you look at it, it's been on a steady little decrease, not significant, just a steady little decrease. If you look at this same time last year, you'll see that it goes into a significant decrease as we go through the rest of the winter. So it's going to be interesting to see if that inventory starts to decrease significantly or if it starts to stay a little bit elevated. Our buyer activity in the last few weeks, the same period of time, has been experiencing a significant decrease as well. Now keep in mind, we've got a couple significant factors in our market with the government shutdown and so on. So some people are concerned about that and they'll kind of step back off the market. So once all of that is resolved, we'll see what happens, but it just looks like right now we're sitting at a very, very even market. So what does an even market mean? Well, if you go down here and you look at the seller's market versus buyer's market, this normal market right here is the midline, and then anything above is a seller's market, which is what we've been experiencing the last several years. Anything below is a buyer's market, which we have not experienced for a consistent time in quite some time. But you can see we're sitting at a normal market. And even when we would dip above a little bit or below, it was still hovering around that normal market. And we've kind of been staying there for the last couple months. So this is a good, healthy market is what this means. From a buyer's perspective, it means that you have choices. We just had a buyer that is ratifying a contract for a condominium. The condo had 2 recent sales in the last 6 months that were $400,000, and this buyer is going under contract for $381,000. Does not mean that prices are dropping. It just means that the seller was motivated enough to take a lower offer because with the market doing what it's doing, the seller was willing to drop the price and take that lower price. There are other sellers that are getting above asking price, and those prices are continuing to accelerate in different markets. So it's really a good, healthy market, and it's very location specific. So as a buyer, you have an opportunity. Number one, you have choices, and number two, you have an opportunity to get all your contingencies in your contracts, to get all of your protections in your contracts, and just get a property for fair market value and not have to give up all of the protections to be able to purchase that property. From a seller's perspective, there are still buyers out there. And like we said, the properties that are priced appropriately and staged and prepared, they're selling above asking price. They're getting multiple offers. The other properties are kind of sitting for a little bit longer, but they're still going at market value or a little bit above market value. And that market value is still increasing by 2 to 3% per month. So for sellers, you're still getting a great capture of all that equity and all that buildup that's built up over the last several years years. And buyers, you're finally able to get into a property without massive competition. So it's really a fair market right now. It's kind of nice for both buyers and sellers, as long as everybody's being reasonable and approaching things reasonably, and as long as your agent knows how to actually truly determine the value of a property and what's going on in those specific markets. So let's see what that looks like with regards to contract trends. Well, you can see that here in Northern Virginia, we had 24% of properties are still going above asking price, so that's about a quarter. 29% went at asking price, so that means about 53% of properties went at or above asking price. So it's still that opportunity for sellers to capture that market value. And then 47% have gone under market value. And those are the ones that have been overpriced, and buyers just have too many choices to pay too much for a property. So that's what we're looking at as far as the contract price. And then as far as the speed of the market, about 48% of the properties went under contract or went off the market in more than 22 days. So that's where buyers can find that opportunity to possibly come down and negotiate on transactions. Anything 21 days or less, that's about 52% of the properties, and those all went at or above asking price. So you can see 52%, 53% here. So if the property sells in that first 21 days, it's typically going at or above listing price. So that's where buyers need to be aware, just because a property's on in this market for 14 days doesn't mean the seller's ready to take a discount. And sellers need to be ready to be a little more patient and give it that full 3 weeks to try to get those offers in. But if you get beyond that 3-week window, then that's where the low offers start coming in and everything starts to kind of fall apart for the seller. Financing versus cash in Virginia, 15% were cash, 85% were financed. Now, here's the important part for buyers too. These are the protections. So we're seeing consistently over the last several months that Virginia buyers, about 3/4 are getting their finance contingency and about 3/4 are getting their appraisal contingencies. The inspection contingency has been going up and down. The last 3 weeks, we've seen the inspection contingency as high as 75% of buyers getting the inspection contingency. This week, that dropped a little bit. So I don't know if that's going to be a trend where we start seeing it go back more towards 50-50, or if it's just a flub and it may go back up to 75%. So you just really need to watch this so that as a seller, you know what to expect when your offers come in, and as a buyer, you know what to expect, what you can put the offer in at. So that's where we are. Nice fair market, nice calm market, great place for buyers to be, great place for sellers to still capture that market, that top market equity and all that equity that's built up. And if you're a buyer and you would like to discuss your situation and discuss strategies, and if you're a buyer, we just did this with one of our other buyers. If you're a buyer that's in a lease and that lease is ending, in 6 months or something, and you're thinking you have to wait till that lease ends to be able to go out and buy, let's sit down and talk, because we can show you strategies on how we can actually help you get out of that lease a little bit early by offering to let the landlord re-rent it for free. Like, we'll cover the renting process. We can show you how to time it perfectly where you're not making double payments in the event that the landlord won't let you go ahead and re-rent it. There's several strategies that we can do to go ahead and let you come into the market now and take advantage of this market, which is more favorable to buyers. So buyers, if you are interested in that, we're happy to sit down and have a conversation with you and see if there's something we might be able to do to help you with that. Sellers, if you are still interested in potentially getting on the market and trying to capture all that equity that's built up over the last several years, let us come by. We'll take a walk through the house. We'll show you what it'll take to prepare the house, let you know what you can probably get for it, and show you a strategy to get that top market value and help you navigate that option and determine if that's the right thing for you. So we're happy to do that for buyers or sellers. Just give us a call, 703-783-2143. You can text us at that number as well, or you can message us on whatever platform you're seeing this video. All right, I hope everybody has a great week out there. We'll see you next week, and Kelly should be back with us for our market reports. So excited about that, and we'll see you guys next week. Have a great weekend and be safe during Halloween.